we are going to do a few things. One, I'm going to discuss theories, ideas I have for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I do want to talk about specifically just everything about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, like a discussion in regards to it, because there's a lot to take in about what exactly happened at the end, and give off a theory and just create more YouTube content. The first thing I want to talk about specifically is the live stream, because there's a lot. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a very interesting remake project, because while it is following most of the story beats of the original game, they didn't change a lot of the story beats. A lot of them the same. They changed a lot of events or certain situations that happen that aren't in the original, that just don't take place in Rebirth, or they changed it up a little bit, such as the whole thing with Sid and how he's introduced. The way Aerith's character kind of is portrayed in Rebirth is different from the original game, which is also very interesting. But I think in general, most of the story beats of the original Final Fantasy VII is still just about the same, just different in certain occasions. And I think that's the whole point of a remake project, or like of the best way to do a remake. If you try to do a 1-to-1, it's not going to be fun, because developers for the longest time, like most of the time, they outgrow something that they created years ago. Or whenever they create something years ago, like they don't just want to do like a 1-to-1 remake, because maybe years ago, like I'm talking like in the 90s, and like fucking when technology was getting close to like the new 3D space, there were a lot of stuff that they couldn't do because the technology didn't allow them, or didn't give them the opportunity to create certain things with their games. So as they moved into the 3D space, more and more technology grew alongside the industry, and then now all of a sudden you have new opportunities to create a newer version of like an old game that you created. It allows you to grow and expand the universe, the lore of that original game that they more than likely couldn't do because, of just lack of, resources, technology, time, money, and all that stuff, right? That's what's cool about the remake project with Final Fantasy VII, is that they are now getting that opportunity to expand the lore, expand the story in a way that they either probably at some point envisioned, or they wanted to add new stuff to give newer, characters more lore, more backstory, like they did in Remake with Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge. But at the end of the day, the story beats and everything in regards to Final Fantasy VII is mostly the same. But I think the remake project definitely keeps it at a point where they basically keep the same story beats. And one of the things that a lot of people assumed was that Aerith might be saved. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Unfortunately, Aerith was not saved, despite the inkling that people currently have that Aerith will survive, or like Aerith's in another world, timeline, whatever. And that she will eventually come back and be saved, and everybody's happy, yay, because why wouldn't we want to keep Aerith alive, right? Well, the thing is, Aerith's death was and is still one of the most monumental deaths in like video game history. One, because back in the day nobody expected it. This was a character that you had in your party for like most of disc 2, or disc 1 and disc 2. So it's like shocking to see that she eventually gets skewered by Sephiroth, right? But at the end of the day, her death is still important, because she needs to be in the live stream for several reasons. Aerith's death is still very important because of the significance of her death, because the point of her death was so that she could go into the live stream to connect with the live stream more fully. It definitely another reason for it is to present more guilt, more tragedy, more loss as a big theme of Final Fantasy VII. And having a character die during the game represents that a lot more in terms of the themes of Final Fantasy VII. But her role in the live stream is very important because it leads up to the ending of the game, as well as the sequel movie. And it really showcases just how much Aerith's death really affected Cloud, to the point he has survivor's guilt, which is a big theme for Cloud, because he was there to try to save Aerith, but he doesn't. And I think a lot of people think that with what happened with that scene specifically, they think that Cloud or Aerith will somehow reunite or have a reunion in some form or way in part 3, because the whole idea is that we're gonna change everything, but I don't think that's gonna happen, because they even said it themselves in interviews that most of the story beats are going to stay the same. They're not going to deviate too far away where Aerith might come back to life. I don't think they will, because they know the importance of Aerith's death, not only to the main story of Final Fantasy VII, but also just for the party to realize that like Sephiroth is trying very hard to make their life a living hell, like Jenova as well, and it's like her death sparks a lot of things towards the ending of Final Fantasy VII, where it's actually very important. It's very important because there is a conflict in the Lifestream, and Sephiroth is literally in the Lifestream trying to corrupt it. He's trying to corrupt the Lifestream so that once the world merges, he gets control of the Lifestream, and then he's able to basically make the world to what Jenova, his mother, wanted. And that's why it's important for Aerith to be in the Lifestream, because she's basically that counter. She is the one who's going to go up against Sephiroth. You already have the White Whisperers going up against Sephiroth, stuff like that, but they can't handle it alone. And you need Aerith to be there. Now, there's also, some theories that there's another Aerith already in the Lifestream, because the Aerith that you travel with already knows the future and stuff like that, right? It's possible that the Aerith that's currently in the Lifestream is running out of time, because Sephiroth is slowly approaching to where she is, which is why that scene in the church is significant, because that scene, I think, represents the Lifestream Aerith, and Sephiroth is getting very, very close to finding her, and then he does. Sephiroth kills that Aerith that was already in the Lifestream. Thus, the Aerith that dies in the actual game essentially becomes that new Aerith that stays in the Lifestream. But I want to talk about essentially what is happening in the Lifestream, because a lot of people still think there is multiple timelines, when in the story there is several things in the story that basically disproves it. There are certain dialogues you see in the game and with what Sephiroth says that basically talks about there isn't multiple timelines, but it's the Lifestream itself creating these multiple paths that basically are changing, are constantly changing, constantly separating or merging back. And you see it throughout the game where like the paths that Cloud, Tifa, Aerith, and Barret create after defeating the Arbiters of Fate showcases that at that point, once they destroy the Arbiters of Fate, who are trying to keep that one singular Lifestream intact, they destroy them and the Lifestream separates. And that's part of the reason why Sephiroth wanted them to actually go through with destroying the Arbiters of Fate, because the Arbiters of Fate were part of the planet. It was the planet trying to maintain order, essentially. And Sephiroth was slowly corrupting them, which is why most of the time you see them kind of, joining up with Sephiroth, because he was slowly corrupting them, which eventually became the Black Whispers you see in Rebirth. The White Whispers are basically both Aerith and the Lifestream countering against Sephiroth and the Black Whispers. Essentially, what's happening in the Lifestream is that there's a big war happening in the Lifestream where Sephiroth is trying to corrupt the Lifestream as much as possible. The more he corrupts, the more he determines how the planet essentially and eventually becomes, which is why he wants a merger, which is why Aerith wants to be, which is why the planet needed Aerith so that they can prevent Sephiroth from merging all the like little paths that the Lifestream form into his version of that, his corrupted version. And I think that's why the planet needed Aerith to be in the Lifestream. I think the best way I can showcase what I mean when I say this is, I think, through visuals. And what better way to do it visually than do it like the old days? I'm gonna go back to our school roots. I'm gonna go back to the days of old, when you were stuck in a classroom for 8 hours learning math, English, social studies, we're going to be using a whiteboard. Woo! So let's just say this is the live stream. Woo! Look at that live stream go. Woo! It's wonderful, right? Look how wonderful the live stream is. The live stream essentially is what keeps the planet alive, is essentially the soul of the planet. So anything that the planet does, anything to give life to the planet, all comes from the live stream. Now, in the game, the live stream apparently encompasses many other things than just life, as well as the many souls of people who passed away. It also accompanies the memories, dreams, and the hope of not only the live stream and the planet, but also the people living in it.
Indeed it is. Thank you for sharing.
Blessings of the planet be upon you.
Now, would anyone else like to share their story with the group?
So, my parents are no longer with us. Here, that is. But I believe they're still out there, on another plane. I've been reading a bunch of theories about this alternate world in the hope of going there someday. And over the course of my studies, I stumbled across a fascinating theory. It addressed the issue of what the live stream is, arguing that spiritual energy is actually a manifestation of our knowledge and memories. Like I said, it's a fascinating theory, but it's incomplete. What about our hopes and dreams? We remember those, don't we? So what if spiritual energy doesn't distinguish between our real, lived memories and the unrealized desires buried deep in our hearts? What if coming into contact with that energy allowed us to peer through the looking glass, so to speak? It's just an idea, but I hope to find the truth someday.
So, whatever dreams, memories, and hope you basically have, the live stream stores it inside itself. Because at the end of the day, the live stream is what's keeping everything on the planet alive. Think of the live stream as its own character, which I think from an interview, I forgot who it was. I don't know if it was the director or if it was somebody else, but they mentioned that the live stream is its own character. So pretend like the live stream's own character, right? And it's causing a bunch of stuff happening that Cloud and Co go through. Let's call this point is where Cloud and company defeated the Arbiter of Fate, right? This is where the ending of Final Fantasy VII Remake is. That is basically the point where the death of the Arbiter of Fate happens, which is literally the ending of Final Fantasy VII Remake, right? Now that you defeated the Arbiter of Fate in Final Fantasy VII Remake, what happens? At the end, all of a sudden you see what? You see Biggs alive. You see that moment where you see Zack alive. The moment that happens, guess what happens? The live stream separates into multiple upstreams or paths. So it's not multiple timelines that happening. It's actually the live stream itself separating itself into multiple different worlds, which is what Sephiroth wants. So Sephiroth cannot take full control of the live stream. So what's happening is that he wanted the party to destroy the Arbiter of Fate so that this happens, so that now the live stream creates multiple of different worlds created by memories, dreams, and hope based on the action of you in the game. Sephiroth wanted this to happen. That's why he was egging everybody on. Which is why Aerith felt a little unsure about going through it first. You know, Cloud was ready to jump in, yeah, let's go kick Sephiroth's ass and remake. But Aerith told him to wait a minute, to realize what they are going to be doing inside there. Because now you have all these events, all these worlds that are happening that are slowly cracking, basically. But essentially, Sephiroth is now able to corrupt each one of these smaller strands of the live stream. Because it's easier to do it that way than it is to do the entire live stream. So, by corrupting each and every one of these little strands that were created after this event, these worlds would eventually merge back into the live stream. Which is why he's talking about the merge. Because these strands that he has corrupted will go back into the live stream. And then that's how he's able to eventually corrupt the live stream to then take control over it, and thus take control of the planet for Jenova. It is very similar to what he tried to do in Advent Children. If you remember, if you've seen Advent Children, you would remember that his plan was to take everybody who had geostigma and essentially kill them so that they could go back into the Lifestream and slowly corrode it. Slowly, make it so that it's basically the Lifestream gets corrupted. Now the story for Final Fantasy VII Remake Project is that instead of just using geostigma, he's doing it by corrupting smaller strands of the Lifestream. And then all of a sudden you start seeing like Sephiroth slowly corrupting, the Lifestream. So, in Rebirth, Cloud and Co. go on their big and grand adventure to stop Sephiroth. Yay! In the meantime, Sephiroth is in the Lifestream trying to fuck shit up. He's trying to destroy everything. He's trying to destroy all these strands, trying to merge all these worlds so that once the mergers happen, those corrupted worlds merge with the Lifestream. Sephiroth starts to play mind games with Cloud. You see it in Rebirth where he constantly tries to say, Tifa is, a Jenova hallucination. She's not real. I killed her. So if I killed her, who the fuck is Tifa? That kind of stuff. He's trying to get into Cloud because he wants him to be a puppet. He wants him to be hollow. So eventually what happens in part 3 happens. Right? That hasn't changed at all. Remember, the full Lifestream is fucking huge. Right? He can't do it alone. Like, he can't just go into the Lifestream and just corrupt it all. Because it's just so much. The Lifestream just overpowers him. But if he separates the Lifestream into different strands, different worlds, he's able to corrupt those smaller worlds so that when they merge back into the Lifestream weakens. That's why he's doing that. He's basically essentially trying to weaken the Lifestream to the point that when the time comes, the Lifestream is so far weakened so that he could both take control of it, and if we to assume that Sephiroth knows exactly what's happening, it prevents what happens in part 3 when a certain spell fails. So this is going to go into the spoilers for Final Fantasy VII Original, so I apologize if I'm going to go through it. But I am going through it because it's important to know exactly why this is the case. So I'm going to go into a little spoilers just to let you guys know and warn you guys beforehand, right? So, in the original, Holy is the magic spell that basically stops Sephiroth and Jenova's grand big plan to destroy the planet so that they could take over it and then, go on and Sephiroth could continue his mother's legacy as a parasitic alien life form that goes to planet to planet, right? And create a new world, create a better world for Jenova, and all that great fun things he does for his mother because he's a mommy's boy. My thinking is that by corrupting the Lifestream like this, not only will it be easy to take over the Lifestream, essentially, but if you are able to weaken the Lifestream, then the events that happen after Holy does not work can't happen. Because the Lifestream itself is not strong enough to hold back Meteor. This is why it feels very strongly that Sephiroth is still in control. Like, he tells Eric to continue praying. He tells, once you defeat him in the final battle, he just goes, and then he just flies away ridiculously. Goes, bye, yeah. That kind of stuff. Because he's overconfident. Because he knows what his plan is. He knows what he's doing, right? He knows what he's doing because the more he corrupts the Lifestream, the weaker the Lifestream becomes, and thus it prevents essentially stopping Meteor in part 3. That's why it's important for Sephiroth that the Lifestream was broken up so that he could infect and corrupt the other worlds to essentially weaken the Lifestream so that Meteor still hits the planet. Eventually he takes over the Lifestream and the planet, and then yay! Sephiroth is the victorious one. Sephiroth, for the most part, in both Remake and Rebirth, is super confident. Like, he doesn't even get fazed when he sees Aerith show up in the final battle. He's like, he even says like, "Ooh, I underestimated you." But he's not like, this shouldn't be possible. What are you doing here? Get out of here! He's not angry. He's not pissed off. He's just like, I underestimated you. You are very sneaky, Aerith. You are very, very sneaky. But I'm not perturbed because everything is still going according to plan. Right? Everything still went according to plan. So, we have point 1, which is, the defeat of the Arbiters of Fate. Now, you have point 2. Point 2 is Aerith's death. Because it is there that the multiple worlds of the Lifestream are slowly merging back. You see it as, Cloud and Co come back, and he talks about like how the planets are slowly merging back. You see it in the cutscene. You see it happening. Because the other worlds are merging back into the Lifestream at that point, including the ones he has corrupted. So all these worlds are going back, which is why you see stuff like, the world is dying. You see that scene during that Aerith's date with Cloud. You see all of that. And people talking about how the planet is dying because those planets are falling apart and going back into the Lifestream. And it's at this point, around here, around Aerith's death, is when it happens. Because, you see that thing with Aerith's, Aerith going on a date. You see Zack deciding what to do. Should he go talk to Big? Should he go talk to Hojo? Should he go back to Aerith? Those are all different worlds and scenarios that the Lifestream came up for Zack. And essentially, they all merge back to this point. Which is why you have that big fight scene, why Cloud and Zack meet up and have that big fight. And then once you have Sephiroth, talk to both Zack and Cloud, and then he separates them. The point of him separating them is to separate them from the Lifestream, because he knows that if they stay in there, they're gonna cause a problem. He needs Cloud, but he doesn't need Zack. What he doesn't realize is that Zack gets saved by Aerith, which is why he's there at the church in the flower, because he's in another world, another strand of the Lifestream that's separated. All the Lifestream strands that were created from this point were all slowly merging back here. But the actions of Cloud trying to save Aerith, and with Zack's role and all that stuff, that is causing and creating new strands to appear. Which I'm assuming Sephiroth was not expecting to happen. No, he probably was expecting it to happen, because even at the end of the day, he was still, unfazed by the whole thing. There are still strands of the Lifestream being formed, because essentially, there's still a part 3, so there's going to be more stuff happening. But there's less. There's less strands of the Lifestream appearing from that point, because most of them that were separated from this one have already merged back into the Lifestream, including the ones he has corrupted. There's a few strands, however, that he has not gotten to, because more than likely Aerith, who is now the Aerith and the White Whispers, aka the Lifestream, are basically protecting, are making sure that they don't get corrupted by Sephiroth at all. The Aerith that's in the date scene is more than likely who's protecting that part, that strand, from Sephiroth, until Sephiroth eventually finds her, which is why you're here. So this is where you've been hiding. That's Aerith's like, oh fuck, Sephiroth found us, and then that world ends. You see Sephiroth appear behind that Aerith, and then more than likely she gets killed. That Aerith that you see on that date, more than likely is an Aerith from the Lifestream, right? From maybe another strand of the world, or maybe she was always there. And that was the Aerith that gave, the Aerith that we know, that we interact with in Rebirth, the memories of the Lifestream, or like memories of like what she knows, right? So, and her fate and all that stuff. So now, the purpose of it was so that the new Aerith that was killed goes back into the Lifestream, which is why I do not think she's, I think she's alive in another strand or another world, per se. Why? Because the Aerith that was already in the Lifestream is dead. Sephiroth killed her. Well, Sephiroth made her disappear, I guess is the best way to say it. Because, she's still the Aerith in the Lifestream, right? So now, the Lifestream doesn't have an Aerith, which is where this Aerith comes into play. The one that dies in the game. That Aerith essentially becomes the new Aerith that's in the Lifestream to continue the battle between the Lifestream and Sephiroth, right? But the strands are still being formed. They're still being, there's still more worlds being created because at the end of the day, the full merge didn't happen, right? It still didn't happen, thus the conflict in the Lifestream still goes ongoing. And you know that there is a conflict in the Lifestream because of certain scenes in the game. The Gungaga reactor. When Tifa falls into the Lifestream, she doesn't just witness her memories. She just doesn't witness, you know, like certain other stuff. What she witnesses is the conflict that's happening with the weapons, with Sephiroth. You see it happening there. Tifa sees that Sephiroth is in there. The Black Whisper's in there. The White Whispers are fighting against Sephiroth. You have the weapons trying to fight against Sephiroth. All that is happening, and we see it through Tifa because she falls into the Lifestream. She gets swallowed up by the weapon and she sees everything. That, I think, is what's currently happening in the Lifestream. There's a conflict, and it's not multiple worlds. It's not multiple timelines. It's different strands of memory, dreams, and hope that are created from either the memories of the people or memories that the Lifestream recognizes as strong and powerful. And from that, it creates new worlds. Which is why there's another world or more worlds coming out after the event of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, because of what happens with, you know, at the end there. And one of the things that happen is like something's wrong with Cloud. All of a sudden, you know, Cloud is seeing things that he probably shouldn't be seeing, because now, for some strange reason, Cloud's mind is now warped between multiple different strands of the Lifestream. And Aerith is trying to communicate with him via the Lifestream, and that's why he's able to see her in that final cutscene. Now, there's some people who, you know, there's that big Genova theory, where Aerith is a hallucination of Genova. It's quite possible that Cloud isn't tuned, that there's multiple things happening, or like there's multiple strands being created from the Lifestream, that he's able to see it. And it's possible that, from what I believe in, is that Cloud is seeing both a Genova hallucination and the real Aerith at the same time. But that's because his mind is getting confused, because more than likely his mind is seeing multiple strands of the Lifestream happening randomly. So there will be moments where he will see the real Aerith, but then there will be moments where maybe he sees something else that may be a Genova influence. But I do think that essentially he is seeing the real Aerith in the final cutscene. The one scene that I do not think he's seeing the real Aerith is that scene at the end, before the final cutscene, where he is sitting in the lake, and then all of a sudden, you know, you have that static, Genova static thing, and then it happens. Kuma brought up a good point. Are the timelines splitting up based on choices? Some are, because some choices create new strands, new memories, new hopes, new dreams. So essentially what is happening is that some choices will cause new strands to appear. They will. And unfortunately, however, though, the choices that you make in game, like in terms of the affinity and the relationships and stuff like that, that's just all part of the gameplay. That's just added gameplay for you to experience cutscenes and like different things and stuff like that. Most of them are not entirely connected to the main story. They're just fun little things that, like, just a little fun that, you know, developers done. They do represent Cloud's response and feelings towards each party member, right? It still does that. But it doesn't necessarily, that is just a big portion of just gameplay. It's not necessarily just like an actual thing that creates a new fucking world, because it doesn't do that. But that's the point. It's not like the way you view the MCU, where like one little choice, or like the butterfly effect, where like something happens and all of a sudden it creates a new strand. No, that's not what happens. What happens is that the world that Cloud and Co are in are still part of the Lifestream. There is no another, you know, universe or anything like that, like the multiverse theory. It doesn't work like that. The Lifestream just creates a new memory, a new strand, a new basically world that encompasses certain memories of like what if, but then it just all goes back to the Lifestream. It just doesn't change much. The choices you make kind of create a new strand, but the strands essentially just go back into the Lifestream. So for example, I could give you a good example. Let's say for the Golden Saucer date, you have Aerith as your date, right? It creates a small little strand, but then it just goes back into the Lifestream. Those are like really weak strands. Like really short, weak strands that don't necessarily do much. It just shows you a certain memory, hope, or dream that, you know, the character possibly portrays, or one of the characters possibly portrays, and just creates like one little small little strand that just goes immediately back into the live stream. It's not like one of these bigger strands that are created via like what happens with Biggs and Zack. Hopefully that makes some sort of sense. Unfortunately for Cloud and company, their dreams, hopes, and like, you know, stuff like that are so powerful. They're the ones who literally create more of the essential stuff that you see in the game and essential stuff that you see in the live stream. Theory is that Sephiroth is the Sephiroth from Advent Children, that he didn't die, that he went into the live stream, and that now he went through the memories of the live stream to a point, basically where the beginning of the game starts, right? And he is causing all this happen. So in Crisis Core, when Sephiroth falls down into the reactor, he falls into the live stream, right? More than likely, that the Sephiroth from Advent Children more than likely met that Sephiroth there, and they started hatching this plan. Because at that point, now you have Sephiroth there. He was found by the Advent Children Sephiroth, and then that's where this plan started. That's where this plan essentially started and began. I don't know if this is true. I would like it to be true, but this is all just a theory. So who knows what this is all about? I could be completely wrong. Next thing you know, fucking all of this is fucking wrong, and then all of a sudden, Nojima writes something else, and I'm just like, oh, well, that makes a lot more sense. I don't know if it's gonna come true. I would like it to come true. It will mean that my media literacy and understanding of Nojima is on point, which is fucking amazing to me, because he's definitely one of my inspirations in terms of writing. He created a lot of the Final Fantasy games. He wrote Final Fantasy X, Kingdom Hearts, and all that stuff. He's very inspirational as a writer for me. So, do individuals merge into one when the strands merge to avoid clones of people? Well, here's the thing. No. You want to know why? Because if you play the game, there's a certain side quest in the game that tells you about what happens with Wedge. Wedge was never supposed to survive the first fall during the scene where you're going up to stop the Sector 7 play from fall. When you see Wedge falling from the top onto the floor, he's supposed to die there. But he didn't. Later, we find out through a story in Rebirth, into like one of the mini game stories to Rebirth, is that after Wedge tells Cloud, Barrett, Aerith, and Tifa to about the helicopter at the top of the building, guess what happens? He actually dies. There's a scene after that you see only in Rebirth that he actually falls from the top of the building and just dies, which is very similar to the way he dies essentially in the OG as well. Same thing with Biggs. Biggs survives, but guess what? In Rebirth, we see him die in a very similar fashion to how he dies in the original, which is basically gets shot up by Shinra soldiers. He dies when he gets shot up by Shinra soldiers in the OG when he's at the tower. In Rebirth, we see him get shot by Shinra soldiers when Zack meets him, and that's how he dies. Essentially, what happens is that for a moment, for just a brief moment, the livestream keeps them alive until they serve some sort of purpose. And then the livestream recorrects itself and kills them based on the same way they die in the original game. So more than likely, Zack might die in a very similar fashion as well in part 3. However, that won't happen until like the very, very conclusion of the whole fiasco, probably before the final battle with Sephiroth, maybe during the final battle with Sephiroth and Jenova, whatever the final fight is going to be like. But essentially, all strands merge back into the live stream, and the lives that were saved get corrected to the actual flow of the live stream. Basically what the OG game does. Which is why Aerith will not survive. Because in the original game, Aerith dies. Even if Aerith somehow survives and is in one of the other strands, it all goes straight back into the live stream. Which means that sadly, Aerith will not survive. There won't be a change. I understand there's a lot of people talking about, fate and destiny and changing fate and destiny. But the live stream will always correct itself back to what it originated, to the right flow that it flows around the planet. I know it sucks. I know, because I would love to see Aerith surviving, right? I would love to see that. I would love to see a change like that. But they already mentioned that they're not going to change the story. They're not going to deviate too far from it. They're going to keep it mostly the same. And based on the death of both Wedge and Biggs, after they survived, more than likely the Lifestream will correct itself and Aerith will die and stay in the Lifestream. But it's important that she does. Because without her, the planet doesn't get saved from Meteor, the planet doesn't get saved after Holy fails, and Geostigma continues to curse people. And Geostigma leads people to corrupt the Lifestream and continue until Sephiroth eventually takes over. Aerith basically saves everyone with Geostigma because she's in the Lifestream, because she is in tune with the Lifestream, she is connected with the Lifestream, and that is the only way she can help save people from Geostigma. She cannot do that if she's alive. And the thing that you see where after Aerith's death, where you see him like talking and speaking, similar lines to like possibly the OG Cloud, I think that's just the worlds merging back. But the problem is that the worlds aren't merging correctly back. And create a different path. And this path is merging with a bunch of other paths, which is why Cloud can see Aerith at the end. I think that is what's happening with the Lifestream. What is happening in general, and just what is occurring. Because the Lifestream is essentially the character that's causing the flow of the game and time to continue going. Because the Lifestream itself is the most important thing on that planet. And the fight against Sephiroth. The weapons are in the Lifestream fighting against Sephiroth. Because they don't want him to corrupt the Lifestream, and basically the Lifestream loses. The whole goal for Sephiroth is to corrupt the Lifestream as much as fucking possible, so that then he can take over it. And essentially do what he planned, is helping his mother take over the planet, then moving on to the next one. And the reason why a lot of the events are not happening similarly to one-to-one compared to the original, more than likely is because shit is happening that's different, right? Which is why a lot of people, which would also explain why a lot of people were not upset with like 95% of Final Fantasy VII Remake. From what I've seen, people love like most of Final Fantasy VII Remake, but then they hated the last part. Why do you think that is? The Arbiters evaded the fetus, so all these strands are being separated, and thus they're creating new events happening that aren't one-to-one to the original, which is why you meet Sid the way you do in Rebirth, which is why it just feels like, you know, very different to a lot of events that happen, you know, one-to-one. Part 3 is going to bring all the strands of the Lifestream, even the corrupted ones, back into the main. Or she says that it will eventually backfire in Sephiroth. Yes, because Sephiroth is super confident about his plan and what he's doing. He's very confident. Because at the end of the day, guess what? Cloud is still messed up. His mind is still messed up. People talk about how, like, Sephiroth, not Sephiroth, but Aerith, you know, got the real Cloud, you know? She found the real Cloud, you know? This is the real Cloud. He's not. His mind is still messed up. You see it. You see it literally in the final cutscene when he talks about reunion. He has that static thing happening. You know, he has the black materia. Instead of telling everybody, he just puts the black materia back into the Buster Sword. Cloud's not right. And the reason why he's not right is because Sephiroth still has control over it. They even some people even point out to the line where he said, where Sephiroth's just like, "What's the matter, Cloud? Don't you think that this is an illusion?" You know, or something like that. I'm not sure what the actual line is. I forgot what it was. But, you know, then Cloud yells out, "That won't work on me anymore." And then what does Sephiroth do? He fucking laughs. He's like, "You foolish, fucking chocobo hair wearing clown." You know? He laughs. He's not annoyed. He laughs. He's like, yeah, sure. So what's happening with Cloud? I'm going to show an example at the bottom here. So when this event happens, Cloud does his best to try to save Aerith. What happens is that the Lifestream basically going through Cloud and seeing the hopes he has to save Aerith. So when Cloud tries to save Aerith and you see like the black and white whispers trying to, you know, prevent him from doing something, they're actually fighting against Cloud to prevent either him from doing something or the black whispers maybe wanting him to do something. What happens is that Sephiroth still kills Aerith. So when that happens, when you see Cloud trying to prevent Sephiroth from killing her, more strands of the Lifestream separate. But what happens, right? What essentially happens is that Cloud is seeing two of these strands at the same time. Something happened where two of the strands merge together to create one new strand. Which is why Cloud is now seeing weird things, why he's seeing Aerith while the others can't. He's seeing the rift in the sky while the others can't. So what's happening is that the strands, two strands, merge together to create one new strand. And that is essentially creating a thing within Cloud's mind where he's seeing things that the others can't. So that's what's happening in terms of Cloud and what happens with the Rainbow Aura. The Rainbow Aura is the Lifestream itself, right? The Lifestream itself got really messed up because of Cloud's actions or Cloud's belief in his actions. And because of his memories, dreams, and hopes, his hope of saving Aerith, his dreams of making sure that, that Aerith stays alive, and his memories of Aerith all converge into creating a new separation of strands of the Lifestream. But what happens is that two of them basically combine with each other to create one new one. Instead of a bunch of strands just separating from each other, right? Two of the strands at some point merge together to create one strand where he actually sees the rift in the sky and Aerith when the others can't see her. That is what's happened. And the sad part is, unfortunately, in my opinion, that strand that occurs, unfortunately, has some of Sephiroth in it. Has some of Sephiroth corruption. Which is why that scene you see when Aerith first appears and via Cloud after her death feels very weird. Feels very ominous. It's because Sephiroth is in that strand of the Lifestream. He's in there. And that's why he continues to fuck around with Cloud, why Jenova still, is in his head, is in his mind. That's what's happening with Cloud in that scenario, and at least according to what I believe. I don't know if it's true or not. It could change, but I think that's what occurred. That's why Cloud is seeing Aerith and the rift in the sky while the others aren't. Because everything essentially still goes into the Lifestream, but these 2 points are when the Lifestream separates into different strands, which represents the new worlds. Sephiroth is corrupting each and every strand that he can, so that when they go back into the Lifestream weakens, so that he can basically take control of it. And in my opinion, in part 3, the Lifestream becomes so weak that it doesn't save the planet, because Holy doesn't work, the Lifestream doesn't work. So what happens now? Here comes the fun part. And it explains why there is a blank white material. Remember, Aerith gave Cloud a blank white materia. This white materia, I think in my opinion, is essentially works as a safety net. That white materia is essentially the key to saving the planet. Because everything still goes as planned as the original timeline, which is what the Lifestream is trying to do. And that white materia essentially becomes that key thing that Sephiroth doesn't expect. Because more than likely Sephiroth doesn't fucking know or assumes that can't be used, because guess what? Aerith is dead. The only people who can use the white materia are etc. Which is why that white materia is going to be a safety net. Is going to be the thing that saves the planet. Because the white materia in itself is a conduit between the Cetra and the Lifestream. It basically is used to speak with the planet. There's one scene in part 3 that Cloud winds up in the Lifestream. That's where this materia gets its power from. And what's interesting is that throughout the game, you notice that Tifa essentially, especially in Cosmo Canyon, you see Tifa essentially get more involved with the Lifestream stuff, right? So while I don't think Tifa is a Cetra or anything like that, that's not what I'm saying here. What happens with Tifa and Cloud in the Lifestream will more than likely power up this white materia to be used as that safety net. Because the only way this gets powered up is by the Lifestream. What's the best way to power it up? On the planet, the only way you could do is with the Cetra. But if you're deeply inside the Lifestream, you can power that up with whatever memories, dreams, and hopes you wish for. Which is why she prayed at the end, because she wants, the hope to save her friends from Sephiroth and his plan. And that's what happens essentially in part 3 in the Lifestream, or at least to what I believe, what this blank white material is going to be used for. So that's my ideas and stuff like that. I don't know if any of this is true, it's just a theory, but I think it's pretty much in my opinion, the best thing I could think of. And of course, it's not just my theory. There's a bunch of people who have this very similar theory. Turquoise Hammer has a really good one that I took inspiration from. But essentially, that's what I think is happening in terms of the live stream and the story of Final Fantasy VII.